There is a reason people do not listen to you. Your words fall flat even when they are full of truth. The silence you meet is not respect, it is indifference. It is not because you are wrong. It is not because you are weak. And it is not because you do not matter. The truth is sharper than that. People feel something the moment you open your mouth. It is not your logic they hear. It is your energy. That restless need for validation. That hidden wound that still bleeds. That shadow you are still arguing with. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. But what he left unsaid is equally powerful." People do not follow your words. They follow your energy, your conviction, your tone. And when those are fractured, your message is fractured too. You are not invisible. You are broadcasting pain in disguise, wrapped in logic, wrapped in opinion, wrapped in authenticity that does not feel whole. People can sense it. They can feel when words come from need instead of knowing. When speech is more about healing yourself than sharing truth. No one wants to be caught in another person's wound. Not even those who love you most. This is not about learning how to speak better. Not about debating smarter. Not about convincing people to respect you. It is about becoming someone who does not need to be heard, yet still is. Have you ever shared your heart and watched someone check their phone? Have you ever spoken your truth and received only silence? Have you ever wondered why, no matter how articulate, no one seems to truly hear you? It is not in your head. You are sensing something real. But it is not the world that is broken. It is a cycle you are trapped in. Nietzsche called it ressentiment, a quiet bitterness that grows in those who feel powerless but cannot reclaim themselves. When words carry resentment or unhealed pain, people tune out. Not because they are untrue, but because they carry a weight others instinctively avoid. Humans are drawn to strength, not dominance, not aggression, but integrity. This is the first test. Can you accept this without defensiveness? If you can, you are ready. Because the deeper truth is harder still. The reason people do not listen is not only how you speak. It is why you speak. Most people speak to fill silence, to prove they exist, to earn validation through another's reaction. But real psychological power comes when you speak from a place that does not need to be heard. That is the paradox. The moment you no longer need approval is the moment your truth becomes magnetic. Why is this so rare? Because few are taught to sit in silence without shrinking. We are taught to perform, to impress, to over-explain, to be so likable that rejection feels impossible. Nietzsche stripped away that illusion. He saw that most people, even the strong, are ruled by hidden resentment. They want to be seen as good, noble, enlightened. But beneath that, they are still trying to win, still trying to prove themselves. To the parent who ignored them, to the friend who left, to the lover who never listened. That old battle leaks through in every word. It shows in your tone. It shows in your eyes. It shows in your need to repeat yourself. People do not respond to logic. They respond to energy. And if your energy cries out, "Please understand me," no one will. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is the moment to see clearly. Your tone reveals the wars you never resolved. Your pacing reveals the hunger to be seen. Your frustration reveals the wound you have not healed. Here lies the challenge. The moment you notice this, you will want to fix it overnight. You will want to erase all neediness and speak from a place of perfect calm. But that very impulse is still a performance. It is still a demand to be liked. The only way out is silence, to stop performing, to say less and mean more, to be willing to not be understood, to not be praised, to not be validated. And that is terrifying. But it is also the turning point. Because once you stop performing for attention, your words shift. They carry weight not because they are polished, but because they are aligned. Imagine a man called Daniel. He is brilliant and thoughtful. He can talk for hours about philosophy, psychology, the human heart. He means well. But when he speaks, people drift away. They glaze over. They change the subject. Daniel feels the sting of invisibility. So he tries harder. He speaks louder. He shares more passionately. But the more he pushes, the less people listen. What he cannot see is that his words are heavy with need. He is not just sharing truth. He is using truth as a plea to be seen. And that makes people pull back, because no one wants to be trapped by another's hunger. One day Daniel gives up. He grows tired of forcing. He stops performing. He lets go of being understood. And suddenly something changes. He says less. He listens more. And when he does speak, people lean in. Why? Because his energy has shifted. No more hooks. No more invisible leash. Just calm. Just clarity. Just presence. Nietzsche once wrote, "Those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music." Daniel learned to dance without forcing others to listen. And when he did, people noticed. Not because he begged for attention, but because his silence now carried more than his words ever could. That is your potential too. To speak from stillness. To let silence burn. To say less and mean more. To stop begging for the world to rescue your voice. Because when you do, your words will not just be heard. They will be remembered. You may think people ignore you because they are selfish, or because the world is too distracted. But the truth is deeper. They are not avoiding you. They are avoiding the weight that hides inside your words. Every time you speak, there is more than language. There is history. There is energy. There are the invisible fingerprints of every wound you never healed. When you talk about fairness, they can feel the injustice you still carry. When you talk about love, they can sense the heartbreak you never processed. When you talk about truth, they can hear the battle you are still fighting with yourself. This is not weakness. It is humanity. But if you don't see it, the cycle continues. Your words land heavy. Your message gets lost. Your silence becomes more comfortable to others than your speech. Carl Jung said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." When you have not faced your darkness, you speak through it. When you face it, your words become lighter, clearer, easier to carry. Think about this. Why do some voices calm you the moment you hear them? Why do some people command attention without raising their tone? It is not technique. It is alignment. They have no secret need hidden beneath the surface. What they say is what they mean. And that is rare. Nietzsche once wrote, "All credibility, all good conscience, all evidence of truth comes only from the senses." People don't measure your truth with logic. They measure it with their senses. Do they feel grounded in your presence? Do they feel drained? Do they feel pulled into a hidden war? The reason this matters is simple. If your words are heavy, people resist them. Not because you are unworthy, but because carrying another person's weight feels unsafe. This is why you must do the work. Not to become perfect. Not to erase your pain. But to own it, to let it live where it belongs, inside your story, not inside your speech. When you start to own it, everything shifts. You no longer talk to convince. You talk to connect. You no longer speak from hunger. You speak from fullness. And paradoxically, people begin to listen. Imagine someone named Claire. She spent years feeling invisible. Every conversation left her unheard. She thought people were cruel. She thought her friends did not care. But the truth was hidden inside her. She carried grief she had never faced, and it poured through every word she spoke. When Claire finally allowed herself to grieve, her words softened. She stopped demanding attention. She stopped fighting to be understood. And strangely, people leaned in. Not because she begged, but because her voice was no longer heavy with need. This is the paradox. The less you fight to be heard, the more you are heard. The less you force, the more people choose to listen. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." In speech, this means stop trying to prove your truth. Live it. When you live it, your words carry it naturally. You don't need to argue. You don't need to beg. You don't need to force. The weight behind your words is not permanent. It can dissolve the moment you face it. The moment you admit, yes, I am still carrying pain. Yes, I am still healing. But I will not make others carry it for me. And in that choice, you gain something stronger than technique. You gain presence. The kind that cannot be faked. The kind that makes people want to hear you. Not because your words are flawless, but because they are finally free. True authority is not loud. It does not shout to be heard. It does not demand attention. It rests in silence, and silence becomes its strength. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They rush to fill it. They chatter to cover their insecurity. They throw words into the air like smoke, hoping something will be noticed. But those who can remain silent hold power that others cannot ignore. Carl Jung once said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order." Silence is where that order begins. It strips away the noise. It exposes what is real. It makes every word that follows heavier with meaning. Think of the people you have met who carry quiet strength. They walk into a room and say little, yet everyone notices. They pause before speaking, and suddenly all ears turn toward them. Their presence speaks before their words arrive. Why does this happen? Because silence is not emptiness. It is energy held steady. It is confidence without display. It is truth that does not beg for approval. Nietzsche once wrote, "The more you let yourself go, the less others let you." When you pour out words carelessly, you lose weight. When you scatter your energy, you lose gravity. But when you hold yourself, when you do not need to prove or perform, others lean in. Silence teaches you discipline. It teaches you to wait until you have something real to say. It teaches you to observe, to listen, to sense the undercurrent others miss. This is not passivity. It is choice. It is deciding not to waste your voice on noise. It is saving your words for moments that matter. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best answer to anger is silence." And he was right, because silence cannot be attacked. It disarms aggression. It shifts the weight back to the other person. And it keeps you grounded in your own center. But silence alone is not enough. It must be paired with presence. If your silence is filled with fear, people sense it. If your silence is filled with resentment, people avoid it. But if your silence is calm, if it is rooted, if it is chosen, it becomes authority. Consider a leader in crisis. Everyone panics. Everyone talks at once. But the leader who waits, who watches, who breathes before speaking, that leader commands trust. Not because of eloquence, but because silence creates space for wisdom. This is what you must learn. Not to rush into every gap. Not to compete for every ear, but to hold yourself steady. To allow silence to speak for you. And then when you do speak, your words fall like stones in water. They ripple outward. They last. Silence also reveals who is truly listening. When you stop filling the air, you see who is uncomfortable. You see who tries to dominate. You see who respects the space. Silence shows you the truth without a single word spoken. Carl Jung also said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another." There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. In the same way, there is no single way to use silence. For some, it is stillness. For others, it is power. For you, it may become both. The key is not to escape silence, but to inhabit it, to let it sharpen your awareness, to let it cleanse your speech, to let it give your words the gravity they deserve. In time, you will see the shift. People will lean toward you, not because you chase them, but because you no longer need to. Your silence will say enough. Your presence will carry the rest. And when you finally speak, your words will not just be heard, they will be trusted. When you speak, people hear more than words. They hear the echoes of battles you have not won. They hear the doubts you still feed. They hear the quiet war inside you. This is why your message sometimes feels unstable. Not because you lack knowledge, not because you lack passion, but because your energy is split. Part of you wants to be bold. Part of you wants to stay safe. Part of you wants to lead. Part of you fears rejection. The contradiction is loud even when your voice is soft. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Most people never reach that point. They speak from fragments of themselves. One sentence comes from confidence. The next comes from insecurity. And the listener feels both at once. When people sense this, they hesitate. They don't trust fully. They lean back. Not because they dislike you, but because they cannot anchor to you. Your words drift between courage and fear. And people do not follow what wavers. Nietzsche once wrote, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster." When you fight your own shadow in public, your speech becomes part battle, part confession. The listener feels pulled into that war. And most walk away, not because you are wrong, but because they refuse to carry your chaos. This is why clarity matters more than eloquence. You can stutter, you can pause, you can even stumble, but if you are whole in yourself, your words land. Think of two people. The first is polished, articulate, flawless in delivery, but beneath every word you sense desperation. You sense they need applause to survive. Their perfection feels hollow. The second is rougher. Their sentences are broken. Their timing is off, but they stand in themselves without apology. And people remember them, not for skill, but for presence. Presence comes when the inner conflict is faced, not hidden. When you admit, "Yes, I am afraid, but I will not let fear speak for me." That honesty has weight. It gives your words backbone. It makes silence part of your authority. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. You cannot control whether people listen. You cannot control whether they agree, but you can control the source of your words. Are they born from your shadow or from your center? When your center speaks, people feel it. Even if they disagree, they respect it. Even if they resist, they remember it. Because it carries no hooks, no hidden agenda, no plea. But how do you reach that center? By confronting what you run from. By naming the fear beneath your words. By admitting the need that still clings to your tone. If you avoid this, your speech will always betray you. If you face it, your words will begin to align. Carl Jung also said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Every word you speak is already shaped by the unconscious. It slips through in your tone. It bleeds through in your pauses. It colors your message more than logic ever could. The path is simple but not easy. Do not hide your war. Face it. Do not deny your wounds. Own them. Do not try to speak from a place of perfection. Speak from the place of wholeness. Because people do not need your perfection. They need your reality. And reality only comes when you stop running from yourself. That is how words become fire. Not because they are flawless, but because they are alive. Words are never just words. They are the surface of something deeper. They are the sparks of energy you carry within. When your inner energy is restless, your words scatter. When it is wounded, your words cut. When it is calm, your words heal. This is why two people can say the same phrase, and one is ignored while the other is remembered. People are not listening to the sound of language. They are listening to the current beneath it. And that current comes from the way you hold yourself. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." If your heart is unresolved, your voice reflects that. If your heart is steady, your voice carries truth without effort. Transformation begins in awareness. You cannot change what you refuse to notice. You cannot polish words when the energy beneath them is broken. The first step is to sit with your own state, to feel the chaos you usually hide, to notice the tension you mask with speech. Silence is uncomfortable because it forces this truth to surface. That is why most people keep talking. They fear what stillness reveals. But stillness is where transformation starts. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Silence is not absence. It is the soil where clarity grows. It is the retreat where your energy reorganizes itself. Think of a river. When the water is muddy, you cannot see its depth. But leave it still long enough, and the mud settles. The depth appears. Your inner energy works the same way. You cannot speak with depth until you allow yourself to settle. This is why rushing never works. The more you force, the more chaos you reveal. The more you push, the less people feel aligned with you. But when you pause, when you let the mud of the mind fall, your words begin to flow from clarity. Nietzsche wrote, "The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly." When you transform your inner energy, not everyone will understand. Some will see you as distant. Some will misread your calm as coldness. But that is not your concern. Their reaction does not define your truth. Your task is not to be understood by everyone. Your task is to speak from alignment. This transformation is not mystical. It is practical. When anger controls you, your tone hardens. When insecurity rules you, your voice trembles. When need consumes you, your words chase approval. But when you hold yourself, when you own your state without denial, your words shift. They no longer beg. They no longer accuse. They no longer hide. They simply exist. And people feel the difference. Imagine someone who has lived through betrayal. At first, every story they tell is sharp with pain. Every word pulls others into their wound. But over time, if they face it, if they stop pretending, if they let the grief live where it belongs, their words change. They can speak of betrayal with calm. They can speak of loss without drowning others in it. Their energy has transformed. Their story no longer bleeds. It teaches. It connects. It carries weight without heaviness. This is what it means to transform inner energy. It does not mean erasing the past. It means digesting it so fully that it no longer poisons your speech. It becomes part of you, not a leash around you. Carl Jung also said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." That is the essence of transformation. Not to deny what happened, but to refuse to be reduced to it. Your words carry who you have become, not just what you have endured. The more you integrate, the clearer your presence becomes. People feel safe with you. They sense no hidden trap. They lean in because they know you are not speaking to heal yourself through them. You are speaking because your words are whole in themselves. That is when language becomes more than communication. It becomes resonance. It becomes impact. It becomes something remembered long after it is spoken. This is the work. To stop trying to control how others respond. To begin transforming the energy beneath your words. Because when you shift inside, the world begins to listen without you demanding it.